Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rob Shmuel with this week's Devar Torah. I keep saying when I start these, I say Shabbat Shalom, but usually I do these, middle of the week. So let's just say an early Shabbat Shalom, just so we're correct here. Okay, so we got Parashat Vayelech, and we're coming toward the end of our Torah for the year for 5785. Actually, this particular Parsha, Vayelech, is going to be read in 5786. So it's Happy New Year to everybody. Lashana Tova. May you be inscribed in the Book of Life. And there's another phrase that we say. I have to look at it. It's funny. I mean, as old as I am, as long as I've been a Jew, and as long as I've been a rabbi, as long as I've gone to Hebrew school, I can never remember Shema, I don't know, something about. I'll get it for you. Next time I will have that phrase down. Okay. So first of all, let me acknowledge a lot of the folks in our congregation. We have a crowd that is just so into being Jewish, and it's such a wonder. It's so wonderful, wonderful. It's not a wonder because people really, when they embrace Judaism, they embrace it. And I'm not just talking about people that are new to being Jewish. I'm talking about people that are Jewish and are finding again, teshuvah, to returning to their roots. And it's wonderful to see this. So last week we had a sofer, Mr. Ron Seeger, a wonderful guy out of Las Vegas, brought us back or his son-in-law brought us back our fourth Torah, and it is sound. We now have four Torahs out of five. And as an aside, I was looking at the fifth Torah, the one that I thought was really kind of a mess, and it would take a lot more. We were told that it would take with the money it would take to make it kosher, which means all the letters are very visible and you can see the letter and you can see what it is. Instead of, in one case, we had one of our Torahs, it was supposed to be a Vav, which looks like this. Instead it was a Yud, which is like half of that. So everything is sound. You'd be able to read it. Looked fine to me. So, but I'm not a sofer. I'm very tempted to pull it out and start using it. It's beautiful. It has beautiful eitzim, and eitzim, which means trees, are the rolls on either side of the parchment that you roll the parchment to get to the right place in the Torah. Were beautiful, beautiful. So that might be our next project. Maybe it's good. Maybe it wouldn't take much to make it kosher. Maybe it's kosher already. I didn't see any things with what I looked at, but it's the way it is. But this past week, we had a whole bunch of people. We had Selichot Saturday night, Saturday evening. Selichot is kind of the beginning of the official Hight Holidays. I've talked about how the beginning of Elul is where we're kind of preparing for the Hight Holidays by reciting that one psalm, the Psalm 27, penitential psalm. And then, of course, we have the beginning of Tishrei, the seventh month. Yes, it's the seventh month, the spiritual new year, when we change the year and when we look back at our behavior and we make a commitment to do better, is when we change the year. But then Selichot is done a week prior to Rosh Hashanah, head of the year. If Rosh Hashanah is less than 3 days from Saturday night, which in this year it actually starts Monday night, then we move it back a week. So it's actually a week and a few days. And we have the synagogues in our area come together and we do a very beautiful group thing, Selichot, which literally means we apologize, we're sorry, we want forgiveness, and that kind of starts it off. So one of the other things we do after Selichot is we change the covers of the Torah, and you can see that on our synagogue website. They're all dressed in white covers, and this replicates, as you can see, I'm wearing my white yarmulke. It kind of replicates the white garments that the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, would wear when officiating, actually Yom Kippur, but we extend it for the whole Hight Holidays. Rosh Hashanah, which is 2 days, first and second day of the Hebrew month of Tishrei. We have 10 days of awe, where we're looking at our behavior and asking God for forgiveness and to be inscribed in a book of life for another year of life. And then Yom Kippur, it's the 10th day of that month. We have our Day of Atonement when we afflict ourselves and we fast and we recite prayers of penitence and really mean it. Then, of course, we have Sukkot, which is the Jewish Thanksgiving. We have Shemini Atzeret, the 8th day of assembly, Simchat Torah, where we read the end of the Torah. We roll it back and we read the first chapter or so of Genesis, and then we start over again. Okay, so that's our lesson. So let's get to Vayelech. I know I've kind of gone over in my commentary a little bit, but Vayelech is a short parsha, the same way Nitzavim last week was a short parsha. So we read the whole parsha. Now, for those of you that are Jewish, or those of you that have been following my little vlogs here, my little Devar Torah, and thank you again for listening. It really kind of humbles me that I have an audience. Basically, we do in our synagogue, the conservative movement, we do the triennial cycle. So we read a portion of the Torah. There's 3 cycles, the first third, the second third, and the third third of the Parsha. Sometimes it's not exactly a third. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes less. But these Parshas are so short that we just do the whole thing. And it's funny because the Parsha, all the verses in the Parsha are still less than the verse we read when we read Kitavo with the Tochacha, which was a 55-verse aliyah. Pretty long. So, okay. So Vayelech, okay, literally means he went. And Moses is talking about, it's kind of the last day of his life. He's writing the Torah. I know it's a lot for one day, isn't it? But he is addressing, once again, Israel, his final exhortation, his final discussion. And again, he's telling them, look, I've talked to God. I know what you're going to do. I know you're going to forsake Judaism and you're going to revert to, you're going to find pagan practices attractive. You're going to engage in them and involve yourself in them, and of course he's right. And you're thinking, haven't we heard this before? The last 4 or 5 parshas, it's been the same thing. You're the Tochacha, right? Okay, you're going to have a great society. You're going to have a great land. God's going to watch over you. All you got to do is observe the commandments. I know there's 613 of them, but when you're doing it as a community, it's actually pretty easy. People say, well, it's hard to observe Shabbat and be Shomer Shabbat, which means you're keeping Shabbat, you're not driving, you're not spending money. And it's easy to do it when everybody else is doing it, but when you're out here in the diaspora, it's modern society, and it takes a car to get places, and you see stores, and, gee, I got to pick stuff up from this. It's pretty hard because you're so distracted. But in Israel, it's basic. Everybody else is doing it. It's no big deal, right? I was in Israel, and, Shabbat, everything closed down. There was nothing to do anyway. So it was that easy, which, of course, discusses the advantage of being in a Jewish community. So, but still, with all that, what happens? After Joshua dies, it's a loose confederation, as discussed in the book of Judges. And the enemies saw this, and they were able, they tried to attack different tribes. And, God appointed a judge who was kind of a combination general and prophet and leader. And they led Israel to victory. And then there was a period of nobody leading. And then afterwards, that's where Samuel comes in, and he says, people say, can we have a king like everybody else? And Samuel is like, well, you can have a king, but not like everyone else. Okay. So after 3 kings, Saul, David, and Solomon, the kingdom split. We had the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom, they forsook Torah. Forsook. They forsook Torah, and 1 golden calf wasn't enough. They had 2. And what happened to the northern kingdom? Gone. So we had the kingdom of Judea. And then again, you had some good kings, some bad kings. They couldn't keep it together. We were defeated after, I don't know, what was it, 80 years, 60 years? We came back, rebuilt the temple. And once again, you had divisions, and united we stand, divided we fall, and that was the end of it. So now, after 2,000 years, we're back. So yeah, maybe it's talking a lot about what happens when you don't observe the commandments, but, gosh, guys, We need that. We need to be told we're stiff-necked people. It takes us a while to get it. And hopefully we've got it. This is why, in my mind, you have rabbis that are real strict. They're like, look what happens when you're not being watched. Look what happens when you don't have somebody writing you and going on and on about how you have to observe Shabbat. You got to be kosher. You got to observe the holidays, and there's no cherry picking what you want to do because that's a slippery slope. You do this. Well, maybe I won't do this. Maybe I won't do this. Next thing you know, you're not practicing Judaism anymore. You just got the DNA, okay? As we go into the new year, let's remember this. There's no accident in my mind, no coincidence that all this comes with the beginning of the year. This is our warning going forward, folks. We Jews, we need to. I know, I'm being a little subjective here, but you know what? We need to observe Torah. We need to be parts of synagogue. Let's think about it as we go into this new year. Shabbat shalom. Thanks always for listening.